Hi, it's Emily. Another episode of the Live Wild podcast. I'm here with Joe Robinet.
Hi.
And so you guys might know him. He's on the TV show Alone. He has a really successful YouTube channel. He had a survival school at one point as well. So we're just going to be talking with him today, just asking him some questions and kind of getting to know him.
Cool.
So Joe, how did you first get into bushcraft and bushcraft life?
Fred Penner, watching Fred Penner back in the day, I think.
Yeah.
Things like that, Little House on the Prairie, Grizzly Adams, all those shows really got, it started off for me.
Mm-hmm.
I always camped with my mom a lot, car camping, never knew really too much anything else other than that. Then this crazy show called Survivor Man came on,
mm-hmm.
and I was hooked, man. It was a big part of my life for a long time, was the jumping off point for that. More than just car camping, you know what I mean? Learning that you can actually go out and do things without a full car full of gear.
Yeah, oh for sure. So did you find yourself drawn to like the challenge of really just, you know, surviving what's on your back and that's about it, or was it sort of just getting back to nature?
Originally it was getting back to nature. Originally it was learning how to just be comfortable in the woods, mm-hmm. Without carrying a ton of things. Like I said, I've always loved being in the woods, and I wanted to be able to not just spend the day in the woods, but spend the night there as well. Mm-hmm. Even just in the city, in little patches of woods near me, without having to go multiple trips for gear and all that stuff. So learning, excuse me, things that you could supplement your gear with from the land, mm-hmm. was a huge part of it for me as well.
That's awesome. So in terms of gear, did you find it was a lot of trial and error originally, or did you do a lot of research and kind of have an idea of what you were setting out for, or what?
It was definitely trial and error. Yeah, because where I live is not a very outdoorsy place.
Yeah. And
we had, Sport Check had an atmosphere there for a while, but that was even later on in life. I bought garbage gear. I bought things that cost me $20 for a sleeping bag, you know, because that's what I could afford.
Yeah.
I was young, before I went away for college and everything. Trial and error big time, and then now that I use high-end gear and stuff like that, I prefer that gear, but finding out that you can do it without high-end gear. Just because you have a crappy sleeping bag, well, put two crappy sleeping bags together and you're okay. You know what I mean? You're going to stay warm. It's not going to be the lightest thing, but then again, it's the winter. You're trying to stay warm. It's not too big a deal. Trial and error and rigging things up and using things for their not intended purpose was a huge part. I had a couple friends who had a little bit more knowledge on gear than I did, and that was really helpful as well. But again, even in the last 10 years, gear the quality's changed. You know, you can get such better stuff for such lighter, and the price and the availability online, as opposed to having to go to Canadian Tire and buy a Coughlin's Fire Stick. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Did you find, once you kind of got into the swing of, you know, being a little more self-sufficient and having the better gear, you talked a lot about, in the talk that you gave at Sale Today, just using everyday items as sort of multi-purpose. So you talked about bread bags and your shoes. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, definitely. Bread bags and shoes is a great example. So you go backpacking, your feet are going to get wet like we were talking about, and when you get to camp, I don't want to bring a second pair of shoes. I don't want more gear than I have to have. I don't want to have... I want to have one piece of gear that does two things, like we were
mm-hmm.
saying. So the bread bags, yep, definitely would help with that. What else? A poncho instead of a tarp, and instead of rain gear. That could be all one thing. Again, this is for backpacking where you're not really having a camp life. You're walking from camp to camp, carrying or wearing, in this case, in the poncho, your shelter. It means you're staying dry. You come there, and then that's your shelter. Things like a titanium mug. That can be your water collection. That can be your water purification. That can be your eating, your drinking, all that stuff. Like a little pot with a lid on it would be ideal.
Yeah, for sure. Now, do you find that you have your favorite pieces of gear that you know, no matter what you add to kind of your repertoire, you keep coming back to, or are you a little more adventurous and like to kind of branch out and always be trying these things?
Yes, both yes and no. I like to try new things because of just switching it up. I know what works. I know what I can put in my back. At home, if I wanted to go camping for however long, I could throw stuff in my backpack and be ready to go because mm-hmm. my gear is proven to me. Mm-hmm. But, for instance, I used to hammock camp every now and then, and I got out of it for quite a few years because I just didn't find it efficient for me. Mm-hmm. But this year I felt like maybe I wanted to start it up again. And I did a little bit of research and got a DD hammock. So I'll be trying that out soon. I'll make a video about that. Things like that, or I'll switch up my sleeping pads every now and then, or I just recently bought a thermarest sit pad instead of using my old puzzle piece, you know what I mean? Just different things. Right, upgrades, yeah. And it's slow, but there's always that, like, that core kit, you know what I mean? I got my sleeping pad that I know is going to keep me warm no matter what, my thermarest knee-wear. I'm going to have, like, a -10 sleeping bag, down sleeping bag that I know is just good to go, actually down to -10, I can pack it down, just things that I can trust, you know? But it is all about trying new things. It is all about trying new places, new gear, less gear, you know.
Mm-hmm. You talk a little bit in your YouTube videos about kind of foraging, what you have around you to make your sleeping shelter. The one I was having a look at today, you were using boughs underneath a log to kind of create this little tent. Do you prefer to forage off the land, or does it kind of depend on the trip, whether you prefer a tarp, hammock, tent?
It's completely dependent on the trip, 100%. So I'll break it down into 3 things. I would do a bushcraft overnight or multiple overnights where I am not really concerned about weight, but I want to utilize things like food, natural materials for my shelter, things like that, where that's my goal, right? And I'm out there to make a video and I want to show these things specifically. But if I'm going on a backpacking trip or a canoe trip, it doesn't make sense to me to paddle all day or to walk all day and then try to make a natural shelter when you get to your camp. You know, and a lot of times these are at provincial parks where you're just not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to forage. You're not allowed to do those things. So in that instance, I'll be fishing. I'll be keeping fish that I'm allowed to eat, things like that. But it's totally situational dependent. I don't go on a canoe trip with just a tarp and try and rig it up. I want to be comfortable. I want to have my lightweight tent. I'm super comfortable in that thing, and it only weighs like maybe a pound more than my tarp, right? So it very dependent on situation, time of year, and just goals that I want to have in that. For instance, I'm doing a Temagami trip this spring, and for 3 days we're not going to be in the park. We're going to actually be on Crownland.
Oh, nice.
So I'd love to make a wiki up with like a pyramid teepee with moss and sticks, and then maybe catch a salmon and cook it up Ringer's style over the fire. You know what I mean? Something bushcrafty. That's also along with my canoe trip, which would be really cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That actually sounds like a really wicked trip. We should add that to our list. Now, you have your dog Scout. Does he ever come with you on your backpacking trips, or is he more of like a hiking partner?
Yeah, he comes out more or less on the day trips, or overnighters as well around my house. I've taken on a couple backpacking trips. The truth of the matter is I like him to be at home with my family.
For sure.
Nobody can come near my house without him barking, and I really like that, especially because when I'm gone, it's my wife and my daughter, and sometimes my daughter's mom there as well, but I like to do that, and to be totally honest with you, it'd be a little bit hectic trying to fish with him. He likes to try to step out of the canoe a lot and go swimming and stuff, scare the fish off, and I can't really leave him at the campsite if I want to go canoeing and stuff like that. So, while I would like to bring him, and I will on family vacations and stuff like that, when it's a distance thing, when it's a timed distance thing, I know I'm moving, I'm really not going to bring him too much. He's a great dog for the woods. He listens, he does all the stuff he needs to, and he will alert me of bear, coyote, all that stuff too. But I do leave him at home on the expedition style.
Has your daughter started to kind of get into camping? Is she starting to get the camping bug, or what? I
can't go camping without her pouting her puppy eyes at me saying I want to go camping. And I try to say, honey, it's -40 outside. It's a little cold, and she just doesn't care. So this spring I'm going to be taking her out to my local woodlot that I go to, and we're going to do a bushcraft overnight with her.
Oh.
So I'm going to take Scout and her, and maybe the wife if she's not working, and we'll do a tarp shelter. We'll cook like a salmon or a trout over the fire.
Oh, yeah.
We'll collect some wild edibles and stuff. It'll be really cool for her, and I'll make a video, and she'll be in the video a lot. I'm sure.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Does she watch a lot of your videos? Does she kind of know what Daddy does?
Yeah, she knows. Yeah, she knows what's up. She knows just. Her and Scout are both trained when I put on my Fall Raven pants. It's like I'm going, so they're both at the door waiting for me. So yeah, with the nicer weather, I'll be bringing her out a lot more. We're going to do our first family canoe trip this year.
Nice.
We're going to do a couple nights in Algonquin Park, portaging with her. So that'll be cool. I'll bring Scout for that one too.
Oh, you're wicked.
Yeah, I can't wait. I feel like she's 4. It's already been too long. I haven't taken her yet, so I feel like I need to take her.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Now, you talked a little bit about foraging. I know that's a whole other can of worms, but do you have any good resources that you found most interesting and really helpful when you were kind of learning about it yourself? Of, you know, obviously it's pretty dependent where you are in either the country or the province, but did you find like anybody online that was really helpful, or any books, or how did you think?
Yeah, definitely. Sam Taylor. It's spelled Thayer, but his last name is pronounced Tayers. Very, very good for our area, wild edibles, medicinal herbs, and stuff like that. Peterson's guides are always okay. You know, they're fine. Trees in Canada. I actually went to college in Sault Ste. Marie to learn this stuff too, so we had a bunch of books that we actually had to get, right? Trees of Canada are good. There's a few, but the Sam Taylor one is the most notable one in my mind. And going out with your book, you know, not just sitting at home reading it or leaving your book at home and going out and try to find. Bring your book, right? It only makes sense, and match it up. And then you always want to do like the rub it on your arm test, right? You don't want to just pop it in your mouth, just in case, because it might be edible, but you might be allergic to it even, right? One person might be able to eat it, one person might not be. And there's different parts of the plant at different times of year and stuff. It's a science. It's not too risky as long as you're pretty good about it. I would just stay away from mushrooms. I don't even want to mess around with them, to be honest with you. Yeah,
that's one thing. It's in pretty well every book. It's like, unless you've taken a course and really been driven in your head what's good and what's not, don't touch mushrooms.
Yeah, hands-on is the thing, I think, like with a teacher who knows the deal, specifically showing you. Yeah,
not just like YouTube,
right.
Someone needs to teach you.
Yeah.
So that being said, has kind of being able to forage for edibles influenced how you pack your first aid bag at all?
No. I would be consistent with my first aid, always. I know that plantain is good, you know, I'm drawing a blank. There's other things that I've used in the woods. I'd really like to remember the name of that right now. Anyways, that are helpful and that I have used, but there's no way that I'm not going to still bring a full first aid kit. And by a full first aid kit, I don't mean a huge, extensive one.
Big old.
Right. I'm talking.
It up and it folds out.
Something that you would make yourself to suit your needs, be it pills, duct tape, whatever you need personally. But the good thing about having the knowledge is that the knowledge you don't have to carry. You know what I mean? The knowledge is of this plant's going to help me for this. And maybe even you're using both. You're chewing up some plantain, making a poultice, sticking on, and then putting duct tape to keep it on. You know what I mean? So maybe there's a little bit of both, which is what I really, really like. I like the melding of everything together, right? I've never claimed to be a paleo guy or somebody who's going to go out with, make a flint tool and go skin an animal. It's just not something I've learned, not something I really want to do. You know what I mean? I'm going to carry a knife because a knife is superior in my mind.
For sure.
And I can. There are reasons. You think that cavemen would have carried stone tools if they had knives? I don't think so. You know what I mean? Or voyageurs carry their 50-pound or 90-pound packs when they could have done steel nylon. It would have been a trade-off, right? Yeah. So I think a little bit of both is always good in every situation.
Oh, for sure. So do you have any tips for newbies that are kind of looking into getting into bushcraft? Because if you're just sort of looking at all this information, it can be really overwhelming, and especially, you know, with all the tech that goes into clothing and socks and packs and, you know, what knife is good for what. So do you have any tips or resources that you find, other than your YouTube channel, of course, that you find that people just coming into it kind of cold turkey would be wise?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, like, start at the basics. There's no need to go all crazy. So what are your basics? What do you want to achieve when you're outside? Say you don't want to go out for the day. Say you've done that and you want to go camp out overnight, right? Well, you're going to need fire if you want to cook your food. You're going to need a stove, right? You're going to need water. So you're going to need a way to get that water. You're going to need a way to transport that water, drink that water, purify that water. You're going to need a way to stay warm, which is clothes, a sleeping bag, or a wool blanket is fine, you know what I mean? Or fire as well, depending on how far you want to take it. But as a beginner, I would say as long as you have your shelter, your fire, your food, your water, your comfort. Comfort is a huge thing that I can't... If you're just starting this out and you go and you freeze all night, you're not going to want to do this again. Or maybe it's going to push you to learn it more. But a bad experience for somebody, first off, is never good. You know what I mean? It's just... Comfort has to take precedence as well. Survival's not fun. Survival sucks. Bushcraft is fun. Camping is fun. Being comfortable is fun. Survival is not. So yeah, I would just say have your bases covered. Tell somebody where you're going. Have an escape route. Have a bail plan. Say midway through the night and your stuff's not cutting it, and you're shivering. Leave. You don't have to impress anyone. You know what I mean? This is a personal journey for every single person, and whatever they want to take, whatever route they want to take on it is more than cool.
So do you have kind of a favorite story from the trail, or possibly a hilarious, embarrassing one?
Probably a couple of those, yeah. Coming face to face with a black bear the first night on Vancouver Island was a pretty cool thing. In all honesty, I wasn't scared, and I'm not saying that to try to sound cool or try to sound anything other than the truth. I felt confident in the fact that he didn't care about me, and that I was presenting myself to... He never saw me. If you watch this episode, he never saw me until I screamed out a few times. He was just looking for fish. He was doing his thing, you know, no big deal. And I got a little bit of criticism once you just go back in the woods because I didn't want to startle him. I didn't want him to run up on me and not know that I was there. So I let him know I was there. He checked me out. He smelled me. He started coming towards me a little bit, and I just kind of backed off and gave him his space, and everything was fine. What they didn't show is that I slept 30 feet from that night under a tarp. An 8-frame tarp with 2 open sides. I slept for 12 hours that night. I slept from 8 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay, that was really cool. After the third day of me being in that same spot and creating my own little trails, I started seeing the bear prints following my trails in the mud. Right, so just following me and knowing. I came across a downed tree, and this was right after the fish run in the fall, the salmon run. I found a downed tree about chest height. And there was a fish, completely like a Felix the Cat bones of a fish, cleaned out on the tree. The bear had brought that fish from the water into the woods and used it as a table. That's pretty cool, man. Yeah, the bear was a really cool thing. I found there was some crows that were sticking nearby me too, and I actually got turned around one time, and they kind of cawed at me a lot, and I turned around and I started walking back, and I swear it seemed like they were telling me I was going the wrong way. And I'm not a spiritual hippy-dippy kind of guy about that kind of stuff at all, but it just really seemed like that was the case.
That's wicked.
Yeah,
That's
it was really cool.
So you kind of talked about, getting in touch with, or kind of almost feeling at one with your surroundings. Have you ever found... when you're out there, the vibe just isn't right, you're not comfortable, you're not feeling good in camp. 100%.
And not even out of fear or anything like that, just not feeling it. You know what I mean? Not feeling like I want to be out there, and that's fine. So in all honesty, and I probably haven't said this before, I don't feel like filming all the time. Sometimes I want to go out and camp, you know what I mean? And I do that and stuff, but sometimes I'll get ready and I'll go out there and I'll be ready to stay out there the night, and I'm just not feeling it, and I'll go home. You know, I'll call my wife to come pick me up, whatever I have to do to go home. That's the thing, too. It's, again, you don't have anybody to impress, and why are you going to be out there if you're not having fun? That doesn't really happen on trips with me because it's always something new and I'm moving, but when I go out to the local woodlot and I'm like, okay, I'll spend the night out here or whatever, if I spend the day there, and I'm like, man, I'd just rather sleep at home. I do. I go home. I haven't really ever felt like a danger or a scare. I've been turned around. I've been turned around and almost lost a few times, and that sucks. I think in those situations, the best thing to do is just really try to gather your thoughts and collect them and stuff. And every time that I've been in that situation, I've kind of just sat down, thought about it, and got up with a clear head and walked away and been fine.
So do you find a lot about, because you sort of touch on that survival and bushcraft are two totally different but, fairly similar entities. How much of either do you find is sort of self-confidence and knowing that you know what you know?
That just, that's time. That comes with time. It's dirt time. That's experience. That's But that said, I thought that I could last on that island. You know what I mean? I was confident that I could last at least a couple weeks. You know what I mean? You really get a real dose of reality when something goes wrong like that. I don't think that I'll ever feel like I'm in 100% control of anything out in the woods or anything like that. But I do have a greater respect for it after that, and I have an understanding of bushcraft is a mindset where I can take things from the woods and be comfortable. Survival is more of like I'm screwed and I'm trying to leave, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's two different things for sure. You always gain more confidence as you go, and then something happens and you get dialed in. You get reamed in, and you realize that you're not in control.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like just being wet all day, having a terrible night's sleep, like being freezing wet. It just sucks all of your kind of mental energy, and that can really beat you down.
If you're hypothermic, man, you're almost done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unless you have somebody there to help you out, or if you really take the time and fix yourself, your situation, you're done. And it doesn't take much to become a hypothermic situation. They say if you have trouble touching your pinky and your thumb together, you're already borderline or on your way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you get that off cold. You're cold. You're completely dry. So.
So have you had any issues with sort of being like borderline hypothermic, or as any of like your buddies?
Yeah, no, I was. Killarney trip 2 years ago in the spring, May. We were prepared for hot weather, cold weather, everything, and it had rained for 14 hours. It started raining at 4 in the morning. We got up and we had to travel 9 hours that day. Excuse me. And I stripped down to not too much underneath my rain gear because I knew that I was going to get permeated through. I knew it, and I wanted to keep some dry clothes dry. That was a huge mistake. I should have kept my clothes on, more clothes on, and we should have... I was with a group and we had a schedule. If I was by myself, I would have stopped and had lunch and warmed up and done all the things, or maybe even stopped for the night. But the other guys were going, I was going too. I got so hypothermic that I didn't remember the last portage. It was really bad. We got to camp, and Buddy Doug lit up his stove, made me a cup of soup. My other buddy Ken set up his tent, and they said, "Here, have this soup, crawl in the tent, and get warm." Well, I had my soup. I crawled in that tent, and I looked at my gear for about 20 minutes. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. I was kneeling on the ground, looking at my gear in my backpack, saying, "I know I need to set up my sleeping pad and my sleeping bag and crawl in it," and I couldn't. For about half an hour, finally, my brain wasn't working, my hands wouldn't do it. And it's like, if you've never experienced that, somebody to tell you that, it's a whole other story. But man, it's legit. It's legitimate. And I was lucky that I had my buddies with me. But again, if I didn't, I would have stopped hours before.
Yeah. So this is your friendly little nurse PSA. Don't let yourself get to that point. If you are at that point, let whoever you're with know. So you don't necessarily waste 45 minutes looking at your sleeping pad and have them help you. No shame in getting your friends to help you, because again, hypothermia is not something to play around with at all.
That's exactly right.
Oh, for sure.
Yep.
So thank you so much for sitting down with me and letting me pepper you with questions. It's been really fantastic.
Oh, no worries.
So if you liked our video, like, subscribe, comment our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, Live Wild. Follow any of us on Instagram, livewild_. Emily, Emma, Wynn, Katie, etc. Again, Joe, thank you so much.
No worries.
Awesome. Have a good day, guys.
Thanks, guys.